The A of magical stands for awareness. Before I even start, I want you to add the following numbers up. Now what's going to happen is, I'm going to disappear off the screen. Yes, don't say thank goodness. I am going to disappear off the screen. And then numbers are going to appear. As the numbers appear, I want you to add them together. And this is very important to me. If you're in an office somewhere and there are people around, try and do it on your own. But I need you to call out the numbers loudly as they appear, and I need you to add them together loudly as they appear. Now, so you'll get one number, and then the next one, you keep on adding them together until you get the grand total. Right? So now you start on your own. Here goes. So that's 1,000 plus 40, that's 1,040. And the next one is now 2,040. 2,070, 3,070, 3,090, 4,090. Did you get 5,000? Was your answer 5,000? Yes. I've got bad news for you. You're wrong. The answer was 4,100. Check it out. 1,000 plus 40 is 1,040, plus 1,000 is 2,040, plus 30 is 2,070, plus 1,000 is 3,070, plus 20 is 3,090, plus 1,000 is 4,090, plus 10, 4,090, 4,090, plus 10, 4,100. Don't feel bad. I've done this in front of thousands of chartered accountants at a conference, and they all shouted 5,000. That must be the coolest feeling on earth when you know you've got them all like that. And they work with numbers every day. It's an auditory and a visual illusion. Mind just goes into automatic mode. So why did you say 5,000? That's the reason. You see, and that's the difference between some people achieving success in life and others not. Because most people are in this automatic mode, as everyone loves to say, they don't think out of the box. They just think tunnel vision, and hence these things happen. It's those people that are just opening those horizons a little bit more that see all the opportunities out there. So, how do you get to see the opportunities out there? How do you start thinking logically? Now, the first thing I want to tackle is the question of what is wealth. If you did subscribe to my 4 Life Truths basic course, the first course was on wealth, then you are welcome to just forward wind over this piece. Otherwise, I'm just going to cover the important points again. If I ask 1,000 people to define wealth, I would say that 900 people would say it's this: bucks, money, dollars, euros, pounds. Now, to most people, that's it. And it's wonderful, again, when I have a live audience. I say, how many of you say it's this? And the majority put their hands up. And then I stand there and go, I disagree. It's wonderful seeing the faces and the reactions. But if to you wealth is all about this, I'm going to change the way you think. I'm going to shift your perceptions big time. Now, in the beginning, that first video I said, I speak from real life experience. Let me tell you something that I learned as a young man, and which has shifted my perceptions completely and given me a complete different perspective of life. I started my career on the cruise ships as a magician, as an entertainer. If you haven't picked up the accent yet, I was brought up in South Africa, hence I have the South African accent. And then when I finished my schooling, first degree in university, I left the country, never to come back because of the politics of the time. And I moved to London to seek fame and fortune as an entertainer. That was back in the early 80s, and of course, having learnt English in South Africa at the time, with the South African accent, arriving in London, every time I opened my mouth, the British would go, oh, you're a racist from South Africa. I'd go, nein, I am German. They hated me more. 2 years of my life, I walked the streets. It was tough, I had nothing. But I believed in myself, I never gave up. We're going to get back to that. But eventually I got a break, went for elocution lessons and started to learn how to speak a proper English and all that kind of stuff, you know. And eventually got a break on BBC television and started getting known. Big agencies saw me. One of the nicest first big offers I received was to work on cruise ships. In fact, on the original Love Boat, if you remember the television series. And I'll never forget it. Here I am just starting out in life. My wife is with me. We've basically got nothing. And we get to work on this fantastic dream cruise liner with all the rich people. Now, if you've ever been on a big American cruise liner, you'll relate to what I'm saying. If not, let me explain to you how a cruise ship works. As an entertainer, back then, you worked really hard. You did one show every 4 or 5 days. I know, but it's, you know, someone has to do it. Now that sounds grand, but you can only lie in the sun for so long and then you get bored. Now all my mates were drinking and partying it up. My wife and I, we started studying further and writing books and using the time to develop a bit and saving our money. But again, another story. So we get onto this cruise ship. Now the only people that can afford these luxury cruise liners are older retired people. The reason being that their retirement annuities have paid out and they've got the money. Younger people don't have the money. So we didn't realize this. We get to the ship and it's like working on a floating old age home. Now you might laugh, but that's the reality of it, okay? Here we are, this younger couple with all these elderly people. Now, how the ship works is as follows. If you go onto a cruise, depending on the star rating, because ships are rated like a hotel, everything on ships normally is included except the tours. Because we worked on the ships as entertainers and we had all this free time, we could go on these tours free of charge, but as representatives of the company. In other words, we had to make sure that the tour was as advertised, because if not, people like suing. And secondly, because it was elderly people, I mean, half of them had Zimmer frames, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. We were like cheap labor on the bus at every refreshment stop or, you know, toilet break to make sure that they get back on the bus, that they don't wander off and get lost. But we figured we're getting paid on the ship. People are paying to go on these tours. We can do it for free as long as we do our bit. What a pleasure. So we'll even get to see all the cities in the world. Bonus. After 3 weeks on the Love Boat, I'm eventually settled in. I signed up to my first tour in the Caribbean, in fact St. Thomas, whole day tour. First half was a city tour, second half botanical gardens. Typical young man, city tour, hi-fis, jewelry, oh, computers, just freaking out. All the old people bored. I'm like, okay, they're used to it. Second half, botanical gardens. Oh man, that was boring. I was pulling my hair out. These old people were taking pictures of flowers. I thought they were Japanese tourists. They were taking so many of flowers. I ask you, of flowers. What were they on, man? They were going nuts over the colors of the plants. I was like, how boring is this, man? I just got a new computer. Made myself a promise that I said, never go on a tour again with these people. They irritate me. They're boring. They're mad. Now I want to backtrack a bit more. Do you find we all know elderly people, because there's all elderly people around us? You notice that sometimes they tend to be a bit aggressive and sometimes don't smile much? Have you ever been in the post office in a queue? You've waited half an hour to get to the front. As you're about to see the counter open, as you're about to walk, an elderly person comes up and pushes in front of you. Respect, I'm older. Ever happened to you? Now let me backtrack on the ship. Here were my wife and I, young couple, starting out. All these older rich people, when I say rich, they all had money. We had nothing. We were starting out. I go on a tour. They all love flowers. They got money, but a majority had a long face. And they never smiled. This didn't make sense to me. Man, life didn't make sense. I was like, what is going on in the world? You know, when you're younger, you know everything. You're naive. It took me 3 months before I went up to one of those elderly people, a gentleman, sitting in front of the dining room one night. And I went up to him. I said, oi, what is your case with a long face and the damn flowers? I can't believe I was that naive. And I'll never forget him. He looked at me and he actually smiled, because obviously he'd been through life and he had experience and he could maybe relate to me where I was coming from. He said to me, it's because I'm alone. He didn't smile when he said that, but he just smiled in his, looked at me like sarcastically, and then he looked at me seriously and he went, because I'm alone. And I still looked at him. I did a double take. I'm like, what do you mean because you're alone? He said, well, my wife died 6 months ago. My kids died in a car accident 2 years ago. I'm bitter at what life has given me, at the cards I've been dealt. I'm here in my retirement, in my old age, and I cannot enjoy my retirement with the people that I love. Wow. Do you know how that struck me? That's a thought that I would never ever have gotten on. He said to me that He's on his own. There's nobody that he can enjoy this money that he's worked his whole life for. That's kind of mind-blowing, man. And he said to me, he worked his whole life to attain financial freedom. In the process of doing that, all he did was work, 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 work. He never had time to watch his kids grow up. He never had time to be there when major things happened. Now that he's older, he regrets that. There are 3 things I learned from the elder. He blew me away so much that I was so taken aback that I started speaking to everyone for the next few months. And over the next 9 months, there are 3 things I learned from the elderly. Number 1 was that the majority of them, and when I say the majority, I say 99% of them, worked their whole life. All they did was make money their God. Just go after money and just graft, graft, graft. Now that they're older, they suddenly realize, but the most beautiful things on earth, where wealth really is, the stuff that really means something, is not the new computer that you bought 6 months ago, the new car that you just bought the other day. The most beautiful things on earth, the things where wealth really lies, are the memories that you're going to have of the emotional, the special things in life. The first kiss that you had, the first steps that your child took, the first time you... Those are the memories that you have. Those special occasions where you connect, not just with other human beings, but with people close to you. There's a lot of power in that. Secondly, you know, I was sarcastic early on when I said, oh, they all got Alzheimer's and Zimmer frames, the passengers, and we had to go and help them on the buses. Again, as younger people, we never knew where they were coming from. Once again, they'd spent their entire life making money their God. All they did was run, run, run after money. They never looked actually after the most precious thing they had, which is their own bodies. They never stayed fit, never ate healthy, never went for checkups. Now that they're older and that health is gone, guess what? They can't get it back. But they realize they're too late. So instead of being sarcastic and finding them annoying, we should have actually in the beginning understood that and learned to respect them for fulfilling their dreams in that state of health that they were still doing it. Of course, after I'd understood that, it was a whole different story. But you see, we are very quick to judge, but we never know the background. And the third thing, the most powerful thing, the thing that really blew me away, was that they all said to me, now that they've lived life, now that they've retired and can philosophize, pray, meditate, think about life, they've realized that the most beautiful things on earth are not man-made, but what the universe has given us for free. Wow, that's powerful. What the universe has given us for free. In other words, when's the last time you've actually stopped and looked at that flower on the side of the road? Because it is the most perfect, the most beautiful thing out there. Have you ever looked at it and appreciated it? It's actually far more beautiful than the latest bit of technology that you've got or gadget that you've got. Have you actually stood and looked at the mountains around you? You know, with traveling around the world, Geiranger Fjord, one of the most beautiful, awesome places on earth for me. In the Arctic, looking at the northern lights where the skies go blue, purple, orange. That's for free. It's nature. It's there. That's power. Here, Butchart Gardens in Victoria, the beauty of the flowers, those botanical gardens. There is nothing as stunning as that. Look at Table Mountain. Look at this photo with a cloud over the whole city. You stand here. Isn't that incredible? Or look at this picture of the Hubbard Glacier in Glacier Bay. Do you know that when a piece of ice breaks off, they call it calving? It's like thunder going off. It's like somebody sticking an electric cable in you and charging you up. All these things, all this beauty is free. It's out there. Yet we don't appreciate that. We become too materialistically obsessed. So my first lesson to you under awareness is start realizing that you've been conditioned to think materialistically. Stop it. Let go of that. Realize, learn from the elderly, the most beautiful things on earth are your family, your friends, your co-workers, those special moments that you have with them, your body, keeping it healthy, keeping it fit, and the beauty of what the universe has given us out there in the nature. Once you realize that, things start changing. Because right now, you run around, you don't know why, you're just running, okay? But once you realize that, you know what happens? You start chilling here. And as soon as you quieten down in the heart here, you just quieten down in general and you become content. And as soon as your shift happens over here, your perception changes, guess what? This stuff starts coming towards you. That's the first lesson in awareness.